we've had a lot of requests for a first impressions video on this 3046R. I get it. We've been sick and we've been busy before we were sick, and so we just haven't had time to use it very much, but I think that's part of the point of a first impressions video, right? And then we'll go into more detail later as we get more experience with the tractor. Let's get started. The first thing I want to point out is that upon initial cold start, this tractor is loud. There's a higher pitched clatter that you can hear there. Once the tractor warms up, that subsides. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on in the engine, but it's clearly by design, because when it stops, and the tractor at that point is much quieter. In this series, there's the 3033R, 3039R, and this is the 3046R, the biggest of the three. Other than horsepower and just the way the engine's put together, naturally aspirated or turbo and aftercooler, the frame size and all that part of the tractor is the same for each of these. So you'll see the same hydraulic flows, the same pressures, the same lift capacities. There are two different loaders offered. This is the 320R. It's the bigger of the two loaders. There's also the 300R. Even if I were getting a 3033R, I would recommend getting the little bit stronger loader. There's no point not to, at least in my opinion. The basic design of this tractor hasn't changed in a long time. They came out with the 3X20s, the 3120, 3320, 35 and 3720 quite some time ago, maybe 2006, maybe even earlier than that. I didn't look it up in detail. I'm sure one of you guys can point that out in the comments when they actually came out, but there hasn't been a lot of changes since then. Of course, the 3R tractors picked up the Tier 4 engine, and so they have all of the DPF and all those requirements that came along with Tier 4. And they picked up a few more features as well. For instance, auto throttle is standard, meaning that when you press the pedals, the tractor throttles up as you press further on the hydrostatic pedals. Along with that, they have these other features, the load match feature, the motion match feature, and just some more electronic controls on those pedals to give you a little more flexibility, a little more control over what you're doing. I find the pedals to be a little bit odd. They are electric over hydraulic, or just electric in total. So when you push the pedal down, you don't feel that immediate response that you feel with a mechanical pedal on, say, the 1R or the 2R. There's a little bit of a delay. So you'll press the pedal and then you'll start to move. Okay, that's just the way these machines are. If it's the only machine you've got is this machine, you won't have much issue with it, I don't think. But if it's just one of several machines like ours, it may take us a little while to get more comfortable with how these pedals work. So far, all I've used this machine for is the forks. I've been bringing some attachments in to do some maintenance work here over the winter. Not much and not very exciting. That's why there's no videos. Again, we just have not been feeling up to doing much. But what little work I have been doing, I've been using this tractor with the forks. I've learned a couple of things already. One is this thing turns amazingly short. I'm really surprised at how sharp it will turn. It might actually turn sharper, or at least as sharp as the large frame 2R tractors. That's a pretty surprise to me. We'll actually try to do that comparison later and see if I'm accurate on that. I would really be surprised if it will turn shorter, but who knows. It really does turn sharp for a machine of this size. And on that topic, this machine is somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 engine horsepower. PTO horsepower drops off pretty bad. I believe it's just over 36, I believe. But the physical size of this machine is much smaller than any other machine that I know of, and any competitor's machine of the same horsepower. I don't know of any 45 horsepower hydrostatic machine which is physically this small. This only has like 1 more inch of wheelbase than the 2R. I think it's 69 for this one. If we try to go to the closest competitor from the Kubota line, probably the other biggest tractor seller, I think that would be the L4060 or L4760. And both of those tractors are physically much larger. So again, I just don't think there is an exact competitor to this tractor. I think the L40 and L47 are closer to the 4 tractors, the 4M, 4R, but in the case of the Grand L, probably the 4R. There are pros and cons to having this small size with so much horsepower and so much weight, especially with the cab version. So it's not all one or the other. I wanted the small size for that maneuverability. You've probably heard that on this channel a lot. Turning radius, the ability to turn in small, tight spaces is very important to me. We find that to be something we encounter frequently in small yards, and to be able to use a larger horsepower tractor in that space is pretty important to me. I bought a set of these axle scales so that I could weigh heavy things. I've always been curious to what these machines actually weigh. It's one thing to read in the manuals what the specs say, but your machine is never exactly like they weigh in the specifications, and that's going to prove to be true with this machine right here. These scales, I purchased them online somewhere. Each pad is supposed to be able to weigh 25,000 pounds, so 100,000 pounds total, well more than we need to weigh here. Now, when you start getting to those larger weights like that, you lose a little bit of resolution. So I believe these are 10-pound resolution, and I'm not sure if they're 10-pound accurate or not. So when Christy gets on there and weighs, if she is a little heavier than she thinks, we won't talk about that, right?
I'm not weighing.
Yeah, that may be exactly right. We could be off by 10, 20 pounds per pad, right? So I wouldn't put too much credibility in these, but overall I would think that it's going to be a resolution issue, not a overall accuracy. So I doubt that we're going to be 80 pounds heavy on the whole thing or 80 pounds light, but just each individual axle may be off by that kind of an average, 10 pounds, 20 pounds each. This machine's supposed to weigh 2,900 pounds, tractor alone. So I took the loader off. I wanted to make sure that we were weighing without the loader. Drove it up here on the scales. Let's see what we got. Okay, you can see it right there on the screen. 4,240 pounds total, and the axle split weights are right there. It's interesting that the left front and the right front, again, are off by 40 pounds, and the left rear and the right rear are off by 40 pounds in the other direction. I don't know. I'm not sure why it wouldn't be symmetrical, so that may be illustrating some of the error we're talking about. 2,900 pounds is what the spec says. 4,240 is what we weigh. Full of rim guard, and these are 49-pound weights. I think I mistakenly said they were 100-pound weights in a previous episode, but they're 49 each, so that's 150 on each side. And then the rim guard would be an add-on. 11 pounds per gallon. That's where a lot of the weight's coming from. That's a long ways from 2,900 though. Let's put the loader on and see how much it weighs. I couldn't find a spec for it, for how much its shipping weight is, so we'll just not worry about the spec. We'll get actuals. My expectation is that the front axle will be heavier than without the loader, but the rear axle may actually be lighter than without the loader. The front axle will serve as the fulcrum. $5,080 pounds. And again, there are the axle weights. The rear axle weights are identical to what they were before. No change. Okay, roughly 5,100 pounds with tractor and loader when it's all clean. So that'll be the minimum for me, right? Because it doesn't take much to put 100 pounds of mud on a machine like this. That's good information right there for figuring out how you're going to chain it down and how much you need on your trailer. This tractor is likely going to be too heavy for a 7,000 pound gross vehicle weight trailer. It's going to be fairly close for a 10,000. A lot of 10,000 pound trailers are in the 3,500 pounds empty weight. So if you put another attachment on the rear, it's going to be pretty close. So, you know, keep that in mind. If we get rim guard wheel weights, a nice big attachment, we could probably be in the 6,500 pound range without, you know, without much issue. So a 14K trailer would probably be the best size for this one. Just an interesting fact to know. It's fascinating to me how much heavier they are in real life compared to the specs. And again, it's not questioning the specs. It's the rim guard, it's the wheel weights, the extras that you get put on that make them add up to more weight. Keep that in mind. All these weights are with a full tank of fuel. I filled it to the rim just before I weighed it. The visibility from the operator's station down to the front loader, I think, is a little worse than the 2R tractor, and it makes sense. This hood is wider. It likely has to be wider because there's more engine components in here. I haven't really investigated that too much, but it is definitely wider. There's also the fuel fill up. The whole fuel tank is right in here, and so that's going to take up a lot of space in the hood. So the hood's a little bit taller than the 2R, and definitely wider, so it makes it a little bit harder to see your forks, to see your loader bucket. You know, anytime you're trying to use a front attachment, it's going to be a little more difficult to see. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but there's some interesting comparisons between this tractor and the large frame 2R. Because their physical size is so close, I think it does raise some interesting questions about which one of these machines might be best for you. We'll try to go into some more detail on that as we have this tractor more. We have the large frame 2R, we have the 2038R as well, so we'll be able to do some more direct comparisons, some more measurements. We'll do the turning radius. There's also discussion about the lift capacity. At the surface level, you can see in the specs that the self-leveling loader of the 2R is roughly the same capacity as the 3R's non-self-leveling loader. There is no self-leveling loader offered on the 3R at this time. We don't know why, but there is not. But I think we may go into that in a little more detail, and I'm expecting that to not be a simple answer as we're thinking. I think the lift capacities may have some variance, but you'll have to wait on that, as I'm not up to lifting all those weights right now. If you're located in South Central Pennsylvania, I'd like you to come visit us at Messick's at the Mount Joy location, January 28th, 2022. Details at the Messick's website. We'll have some details at tractortimewithtim.com. We'll be there most of the day, if not all day. Would love to see you. We get a lot of requests for meet and greets in that area. If you're an orange tractor lover, come on out. We'd love to see you and greet you. And if you're a green tractor lover, come on out as well. Yeah, and wear your green. They won't mind. And hey, if you get there early, I think there's free pancakes, maybe even free lunch. I'm not sure. Go check it out at messicks.com. But we're really interested in seeing you guys. It's an opportunity for us to have a meet and greet in an area that we normally wouldn't be able to visit. Likewise, we're going to the National Farm Machinery Show in Louisville, Kentucky. We do this every year. I think it's our biggest show of the year. We have a lot of people turn out. On Wednesday night, February the 16th at 6:30 p.m., that's during the show week, we will be at W.W. Cousins in Louisville at their St. Matthews location. The owner of W.W. Cousins, one of the owners, is a big TTWT fan, and he'll be excited to see us there. He's going to have some treats for us, and they claim to have the best cheeseburger in Louisville. I'm not certain about that, but I'm not going to argue with them because it's a good cheeseburger. We've had several of them. Overall, at the National Farm Machinery Show, we will meet at the Deere booth at 11 a.m. each day for a quick meet and greet. Get a chance to look at whatever they've got there. Looking forward to it, mid-February here in Louisville, Kentucky. FarmMachineryShow.org. A lot of people have been asking why we didn't get the cab version. I think that's a great question. We had an episode recently, in the last 4 or 5 months, where we were at Ken's property from Bolt-On Hooks, and we had a 3720, the predecessor to this machine, 2 of them. We had one of them was an open station, one of them was a cab. And we did some discussion during that episode. We would actually encourage you to go back and watch that episode. We'll put a card up here. And I think you'll be able to see some of our discussion there and be able to understand a little more, but I'll go through it a little bit here. First, the cab on the 3R tractors is really nice. It's very quiet, it's sound isolated very well for this size tractor, and quite frankly, even the cost is not totally unreasonable when you get down into the 3033R size. So being able to get that quiet of a machine in that size is really nice. There were a couple of technical issues that made it difficult for me to get over the hump and convince myself that I wanted a cab on this tractor. The first has to do with the way the joystick lever is mounted and where the actual SCV is. It's way down here, inside here. You've got a long lever. Now this is very similar to the Kubota LX3310 that we have, in that it has a long lever down into the SCV. The 2R has the SCV right up here and a really short lever directly on that. So it's much more comfortable in that sense. The 3R cab, the 3046R cab, has that short joystick, but it uses cables to connect to the actual SCV. And I find those difficult, hard to actually move, to control the loader smoothly, and Christy found it essentially impossible. She didn't have the strength in her hand to be able to do it without grabbing with the other hand and pulling, and we just found that to be kind of a challenge. Now remember, this tractor is not a new design, and I should probably do an episode on what design changes I would make to this tractor, and I eventually will, but that's one thing that would be on the top of the list, right? I really don't like the cable-driven joystick in the cab version, so I wanted the open station. Technical item number 2, the center of gravity on this tractor raises dramatically when you have the cab. Lots of complaints about the 3Rs being tipsy when the tires are in the inner position, right? If you don't have fluid in the tires, all these other items that you might not have, the cab will just make it much easier to tip over and just gives a very tipsy feeling even on fairly level ground. I experienced that with my dad's 3320. I wanted to see what it was like with an open station. Are we going to find that it's equally tipsy, or are we going to be able to notice the difference? I think we're going to be able to notice the difference, but we'll share that over the course of the next year. I would find a cab to be wonderful when it comes time to hook onto a brush mower like our TS10. Being able to stay out of the grass and weeds and pollen and everything would just be awesome. But I just wasn't sure that the trade-offs were quite worth it for us. We have some items that are specific to us because of our particular type of work. Oftentimes we're working with a customer or a friend that we want to be communicating very interactively with. It's hard to do that when you've got a cab. It's hard for us to communicate with you on camera with the same interactive feeling inside a cab. So there's some disadvantages there. Overall, we just felt like a cab was probably not the best option for this machine. Yeah, we'd still love to have one at some point, so we'll see how that goes. I want to talk a little bit about how comfortable this machine feels. For me, this machine is wonderful. The tilt wheel gets the wheel right where I want it. The foot pedals are out to the side a little bit further than they are on a 1R or a 2R. So with my longer legs, that is great. The air seat, oh my, been wanting one of those. That's really nice. Christy and I think the air seat will be good for the two of us because it will allow us both to have the seat in a position that is more suitable for us. As I talk about Christy, let's see what it looks like when she's in the saddle.
So for me, it's a little bit awkward because I'm only 5'2", and when I have the seat as far forward as I need to reach the pedals, my knees hit the shroud here, and then I still can't, it's very difficult for me without scooting forward just a little bit to get the pedal all the way to the floor. And then the reverse pedal is even more awkward. I have to move, and it's not a ergonomic position for me.
So what I see is that the seat gets too close to the hood here.
Yes.
And that the pedals for you are too far out to the side.
Yes, but they, you know, they didn't have anywhere else to put them, but
No.
we'll see. I haven't used this tractor very much yet. I think I moved one thing with the forks the other day and it was a little awkward for me, but maybe that's because I'm not used to it. I think to be more comfortable, I'd have to scoot the chair back some, but then it's gonna, I have to scoot my bottom end up a little bit to be able to press the pedal down, or either I'm just using my tip of my toes to do it,
Yeah.
which are right now cramping in my shoe because of that. And the reverse is very awkward.
Just too far out there for you to reach.
Too far out there. Overall, I think the width is it's just much wider than the 1025R and that 4.
Yep. Yep. I really think the first thing, if they would get rid of the fuel tank here and put it under the fender, like they have on the other machines, I think we would find that they would be able to improve a lot there.
That said, I still think this is probably our dream tractor because it's got so much more power in a small footprint.
Yeah, we're still really excited
So
about
I'm
this
not
machine.
trying to put it down at all yet. That's only like 2.5 inches.
Additionally, when the seat's all the way forward, reaching the air switch is impossible. You have to scoot the seat back. So the air mechanism does not move with the rest of the seat, forward and rear. Again, it doesn't matter to me because when it's all the way back like I like it, I have good access to the air pump. We're going to use this tractor on a project next week. Hopefully the video will be out in a week or two. It's a loader project where we have to lift a little higher than normal and yet get into someone's yard that may be a little bit of a tight fit. We think it's a perfect opportunity for this tractor. So at least we'll have something, you know, real project-wise to show you very soon on that. I think that's all for today. Hopefully, Christy and I will both get more energy and be able to get back to normal here fairly soon. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim. Look, I am coming soon. My reward is with me, and I will give to each person according to what they have done. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Well, we successfully put one of our viewers to sleep. Yeah? Yeah, Bullseye's taking his afternoon nap. Am I that boring, Bullseye? Don't answer, Christy. Oh, okay.